Hello everyone, welcome back to the session. In the previous session we have done what are the basic composition settings, what are the different parameters of a composition settings, how will you get to know that what particular value has to be filled according to your project. So now we are going to start with layering system, that is how you are going to add layers, what type of layers are there in this particular software, right? So let's jump into the software and now let's create a new composition. To create a composition, we know that we can right click on the project panel and choose the new comp, and let's rename it. Let's rename it as a poster. So I'm going to choose a custom resolution, that is 1080 into 1350. So which is the basic resolution for your Instagram post. As you all are very much aware that recently Instagram has updated with its dimensions. So we are going to choose the one that is 1080 into 1350. Let the frame rate be 25 only and the duration be 8 seconds, right? Currently I've selected the 8-second duration, and now we can start with a particular project. So this is the background which we have for a particular project, but we can always change the background. To change the background, all we have to do is we have to create a new solid layer, and under the solid layer we have to choose a color. So now to create a solid layer, all you have to do is you have to go to the timeline panel, and under the timeline panel right click here, go to the new, and under the new you can choose this solid. Now this particular solid layer, what it does, it will have a solid color in it. Let's suppose that I'm going to select this solid layer, and now I can choose any kind of color whatever I want for my particular project. That is one thing, right? For example, now I've choose this particular color and press OK. Now we have to continue with a particular project. So let's suppose there is a possibility that I want to change the color, right? So there's a possibility that my client says that, okay, I don't like the color, can you change it to blue, green, or any other specific color? For that, what we can do is we can again create a new solid layer, but that can be hectic to create a solid layer each and every time whenever the client is asking for the change in the background. And in order to get out of that kind of problem, what we can do is first let's delete this layer. As we all know that how to create a solid layer, we can simply go to the timeline, right click here under the new and choose the solid. That is the one method. Another method is you can use the shortcut key, that is control plus y or command plus y if you are a Mac user. For Windows it will be control plus y. So let me just press control plus y, and now you can see that we have a solid layer here. Again the same options. Okay, now if there is any change in the color, you can simply change the color of the solid layer by simply adding shift to the command for the solid layer. As you all know that the shortcut key to create a solid layer is control plus y or command plus y. All you have to do is just add a shift to that particular command. So if I want to change the settings of this particular solid layer, I have to press control plus shift plus y, and it will give me the same dialog box which we have earlier opened for creating the new composition. And now you can see if I change the color from here, right? So as you can see, now I've changed the color, and now that color can be very much seen in the composition also. So I will press OK, and now you can see we have created a new background layer. In order that to lock this layer, for example, there is a possibility that I may move this layer to the left or the right. So to solve this problem, what we can do is we can simply lock our particular layer from this lock option. If I just click here, then you can see my current layer has been locked. It means I cannot do any change in it. I cannot move it, right? I cannot resize it. I cannot rotate it, right? It is all locked. So you can unlock it by clicking here. Then we have some tools here, like we have selection tool, then we have the hand tool, then we have the zoom tool, Zoom tool will allow you to zoom in and zoom out in your particular panel, right? And then we have the hand tool. If you want to pan, right? If you want to pan in between your composition, right? So you can always choose the hand tool, right? After that, we have some other tool, that is the pan behind tool, which is used to move the anchor point of your particular object. Then we have the shape tool. Now currently you can see there is one single layer here and we call it as a solid layer. This is a solid layer. Now we are going to create a shape layer. So now if you go to this particular option, hold your left mouse button and you can choose different kind of shapes. Like we are having rectangle tool, then we have rounded rectangle, which will somehow ease the edges of your particular rectangle. Then we have the ellipse to create a circle, then we have a polygon, then we have star. For example, if I choose the rectangle tool, so I can create any kind of rectangle here. So now you can see we have selected a rectangle. Again, if I want to select the rectangle, I have to choose the selection tool. That shortcut key for that particular tool is V. So now I can choose this particular rectangle and I can change some basic properties. Like if I go to the fill option, I can fill the color inside this particular shape. Let's suppose I'm going to choose the white color, and right now the stroke, the value of the stroke is 170. So you can always change it according to your own requirement. That is, you can increase or you can decrease the border of your particular shape. Currently it's 170. Let's keep it to 10, whatever value you want to have. Now you can see if I selected this particular shape, I'm having some fill option which will fill a color inside this particular shape. Then we have the stroke option which will somehow fill the colors inside this particular stroke or the outline. Now if I want that, okay, there should be a specific style of color should be applied in this particular box, like I want a gradient. So all I have to do is you have to click on this fill option and choose the one, right? If you want that there should be no fill or there should be no color inside the particular shape, you can choose the very first option, none, and then you can choose the transparency of this particular shape, right? And if you want to fill a solid color, you can fill the solid color. If you want to fill a linear gradient, right? If you want to create a gradient for your particular background, you can choose the linear gradient option. Then we have the radial gradient option also there to create a gradient in radial style. So this is how you can create gradients for your particular backgrounds. If I press OK, then for the stroke also, if you want to, currently we have selected the linear gradient, so we can change it to the radial gradient also. We can change it to any solid, or we can choose the none option if we don't want any kind of solid color in it, right? Press OK. Same, we have options for other shapes also, right? There is rounded rectangle. Once you have selected the shape, press and hold the left mouse button and drag the mouse to the left or to the right to create shape. Now I have selected the rounded rectangle here. Right now, as you can see that I have not released my left mouse button. So in order to increase or decrease the roundness of your particular edges, right, all you can do is, right now my left mouse button is on hold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now press the arrow up key, right? In the keyboard, I'm going to press the arrow up key, and now you can see the edges of this particular rectangle, right, are getting curved, right? So you all can always increase or decrease the roundness by pressing the arrow up or arrow down key. Right now you can see that I'm pressing the arrow up key or arrow down key to increase or decrease the roundness of this particular shape. So this is about the shape layer. Another tool which we have is the pen tool. There are certain parameters for rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star. There are certain dimensions for this particular tool. But what if there is a requirement that I want to create a specific shape. To create a custom shape, what we can do is we can always choose the pen tool and create a shape of our own requirement. So let's create a shape. Click on the left mouse button to create a shape. Now I have added one point here. Now click here to add another point, and then now you can see I have just with a single click there is a straight line. Whenever I'm going to click the mouse button, right, it is going to create a straight shape, right, like this. Now but what if I want a curve, right? Let's suppose that I want a curve like this from here to here. So in order to create a curve, what we can do is we can click on the left mouse button, hold the left mouse button, and after that we can drag the left mouse button to the left or to the right, like this. So this is how you can add a curve into your particular shape. Now you can see that we have the handles in this particular area. So if I'm going to click here, then what it will do is it will somehow curve that particular edge from this side, like this. You can see there is a curve now. So in order to decrease the curve or roundness, what you can do is you can always select the handle and adjust it accordingly if you don't want to have the curve at that particular area. And the point from where you have started creating your shape, you have to click on that particular point to close that shape. Now you can see if I move my mouse pointer to the left or to the right to anywhere, there is no particular option shown in the pen tool. But the moment I move my mouse pointer nearby to this particular shape, right, to the point where we have started creating the shape, you can see there is a circle option coming on the right side of the pen tool. So this particular option is letting you know that, okay, we are now going to close the shape, right? If I click here, now my shape has been completed and it is closed now. Right, hope so you are very much clear that what are shapes, how can we create a shape, how can we create a custom shape using the pen tool. Now after that, let's come to some basic shape properties. If I go and create any kind of shape here, like this is a shape, or let's create a circle here. Sorry, let's create a star which will somehow give us more. Now, once you have created a shape, make sure that your anchor point is always at the center of the point. Your anchor point is the center point of your shape. It means that it will allow you to move, to rotate that particular shape from that point only. Right now you can see the anchor point is at this side. So in order to change or move the anchor point, you can select the pan behind tool and you can move it accordingly wherever you want to have it, right? And in order that you want the anchor point to be at the top bottom or top left or top right, what you can do is while moving the anchor point, just press the control button. So it will allow you to snap to the center or to the edge points of that particular shape, right? This is how you can snap to the corners of this particular shape. Now what we can do is we have different kind of layers here. We have one solid layer, then we have a shape layer, but I think so it has not been created fully, so let's delete it. Now we are having two kind of layers here. One is the solid layer, then the other is the shape layer. Another layer which we can create here is the text layer. If you choose the text or the type option here, you can type your text. You can increase the font size. Now you can see that my anchor point right now is placed at this particular corner. So all I can do is choose the pan behind tool or press the Y button in the keyboard, and I can move my anchor point anywhere. But let's suppose that I am very much sure that okay, I want to place my anchor point at the center of this particular shape. So in order to place your anchor point at the center of your particular shape or your layer, right, what you can do is you can simply select your shape, select the layer you want. Okay, after that go to the pan behind tool, press the control button and double click on the pan behind tool to move the anchor point at the center of your layer like this. So now you can see my anchor point is at the center point of my particular layer. So you need not to move your anchor point manually every time. If you are very much sure that okay, you are going to add or adjust the anchor point at the center of your particular shape, then you can directly press the layer, select the layer. After that, double click on the pan behind tool by pressing the control key, and your anchor point will move directly to your particular center of your layer, right? Now this was all about layers, that what kind of layers do we have. Now how to animate them, right? So let's delete every layer and now start creating a posture which can help us out. So to create a posture, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one particular shape and I'm going to choose a gradient option here. So let's choose the radial gradient, and after that I'm going to change the color. To change the color, you have to click on this particular area, and after that you can choose a color whatever you feel like. So let's choose a color like this. And now if you want to increase or decrease the gradient style, right now the gradient style is being depicted from this point to this particular point. So what we have to do is we have to select the handle and move it in the direction where we want the gradient should move. Right now, like this, we can move the gradient style, right? So this is how you can add a gradient to your particular project. After that, I'm going to import one simple image here. Now you can see this image is in the project panel, but I want to have this particular this image into my timeline. So what I can do is I can simply select and drag and drop this particular image into my timeline, and now you can see the image has been placed inside the timeline. So if I want to scale it down, so let's come to the transform properties of each and every layer. See, the layer which is visible on the composition panel, I'm not talking about the layer of audios or music layer, right? I'm talking about the layers which are visually presentable in the composition panel. Those particular layers will have some basic transform properties, like they can be scaled up, scaled down, they can be moved, they can be rotated, right? We can always increase or decrease the proportion from a specific area, right? Now how to get those particular options? If you select any kind of layer, you will click here and you will find there are some basic transform properties. Maybe there can be some basic properties of that particular layer also, like the shape layer. It will have some its own properties. Like for the rectangle, we are having the rectangle path option, we have the stroke, we have the gradient fill option, right? We have the opacity. Now these all properties are related to the shape. Now if I want to have some basic transform properties, then I will select this layer, choose the transform option, and under the transform option, all I have to do is we have to look the property which we want to modify. Currently this is the anchor point, then we have the position, then we have the scale, rotation and opacity. So now my basic requirement is that I want to scale it up or scale it down, right? so that we can fit this particular image into our project. So to fit this particular image into our project, we have to scale it down like this. So now you can see there is an image of my particular project, right? So we have placed it by scaling it down. Now we will learn about anchor point, that why positioning a anchor point at the center or at the required area is important. For example, if I select this particular image, now you can see the anchor point is at the center of the image, and if I scale it up or scale it down, right, so it is going to scale it or scale up down from that particular point only. Even if I move the anchor point to any other side, it will scale it or it will scale down from that particular point only. Right now you can see I'm going to place this anchor point at this particular area where from where it will now scale it up or scale down, right, like this. Now you can see after that, even if I add any rotation to it, you can see it will rotate it from this particular point only, right? So that's why it is very important that you should place your anchor point at the desired point only where you want the animation should start from, or the movement should change from that particular point only, right? Now after that, let's add some text to it. We can choose any kind of font. Currently I'm going to switch to the Poppins, which is my current favorite, because we get a lot of option for the weight, right? So let's add another. Now to duplicate this layer, right, instead of creating a new particular text, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply select this particular layer and I'm going to duplicate it by pressing the Ctrl plus D. That is, to duplicate any kind of layer, you have to press Ctrl plus D. So now it will duplicate it. If I move this particular layer, now you can see we are having two layers, that is break and break 2. The break 2 is the duplicate layer which we have created. So we are going to add it here like break. Let me just decrease the size a little bit. You can always select the layer and after that you can scale it down from this particular points also. Now again, going through your different kind of transform properties, right? If I go to the transform properties of this particular text, again we have the same transform properties. One is the anchor point. You can always move the anchor point. You can change the position. You can scale, you can rotate, and opacity. Now you can see that we are having different kind of layers here. We are having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I somehow open the transform properties on one single layer, the other layers, they start disappearing or they actually scroll down, right? So in order to look at the properties of another layer, I have to move it little bit down, right? Or I have to shift my timeline panel a little bit up or down to see all the basic properties, right? So that can be hectic sometimes. So in order to view a specific property at a specific point, right? For example, let me go through this. If I want to change the position of this particular object, all I have to do is select this layer and I want to change the position. Then I have to press P on the keyboard and then I will have the access to the position property. So if I press P, Now you can see only position property is there. If I have to rotate, then I have to press the R. If I have to scale it, then I have to press S. And if I want to change the opacity, then I have to press T. No, it won't be O. You were guessing it like it would be O, but no, it's not O. So in order to remember that why it is going to be T, let's rename this as transparency instead of saying the opacity, right? Whenever we are going to say that we are going to change the opacity, it means we are going to play with the transparency of that particular layer. That's why let's remember it with T, right? So if I press T, then opacity value is there. Then we can always adjust the value accordingly, right? Then we are going to create certain shapes. Let's go to the pen tool and I'm going to create one simple stroke here. Like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the fill option and I will choose the none. And after that, under the stroke, I will choose the solid layer. Now I will increase the width of this particular now, as you can see that this particular shape, right, it is overlapping my image. So in order to bring this shape down or behind the photo, what I have to do is I have to select the layer and I can simply drag and drop it behind that particular layer, and it can be simply seen like this, right? So let's delete this shape and let's create some another shape that was just for your reference, right? We can again add some more properties to this stroke. Like currently it is solid, we can change it to any gradient also to create some crazy gradient effects. So we can again choose the same color options or same parameters. And then we can adjust the handles accordingly. Let's change the complementary color scheme for this, or we can go for any neon kind of effect also. Right. So this is a shape which we have created, but if I want to add some more adjustment to this particular shape, right? So this is currently a stroke. So I will choose this particular stroke option here. And under the content properties, I'm going to change some basic properties of this particular shape, right? We can choose the gradient stroke option, and under the stroke, we have the option to change the line cap. From butt cap, I'm going to change it to the rounded cap. So will it add some basic roundness to this particular edge. So right now, if I'm going to change the butt cap option and change it to the round cap, so now you can see there is some roundness option here. Okay, it can't be seen right now. Okay, it's for the line join. Yes. So you can always create the rounded join option to create some roundness to your particular shape. So we can create something like this. Then we have the option of taper, or if you want to create a dash line also, that is totally dependent upon you, that what kind of design you want to carry on. If I go in plus, and I'm going to adjust then we can create something like this also. If I go and increase the dash, then we can create something like this. So that totally depends upon what kind of design you want. Currently I don't want any dash lines in my particular shape, so I'm going to stick to this option only. Okay, now how to add effects to your layer, right? Now you can see we have a basic layout created for a poster, but how to animate them? Currently it is static. The same we can create in Adobe Photoshop also. Then what is the purpose of Adobe After Effects for creating motion design? So we are going to jump into the animation part. So what you have to do is, let's suppose, starting with the very first, that is your image. If I want to add any kind of effect to this particular image, I want to start with the animation. All I have to do is I have to go to the transform properties, and under the transform properties you can see there are different kind of properties available, and along with that particular property there is one particular icon. If you can see the stopwatch icon here, so this stopwatch icon will let you know the property which you are going to work on. It has the animation property in it. It means we can animate that particular property by adding a keyframe. So if you select this particular option, like if I'm going to choose the scale option here, so what you can do is you can animate it, which means that, okay, I want that after 1 second it should animate in such a way that it is scaling up from this particular side. So I will add a scale option here at the 1 second. You can press the page up or page down to move 1 frame forward or 1 frame backward in the timeline. And then you can press this particular option. Now you can see there is a diamond kind of icon available here. It means that one keyframe has been added. So in order to start with the animation, minimum 2 keyframes are required with different values. Let's suppose that you have added 2 keyframes, but the value of those particular keyframes are same, then there will be no animation, right? So if I go back to 0 second and change the value, right? Now you have to make sure that you have to click on this particular icon just once. After that, whenever there will be a change in the value, it will somehow automatically add a keyframe in the timeline. So right now you can see I have selected the value here. Right now I'm going to change the value. Currently there is no keyframe. If you want to zoom in or zoom out in your timeline, you have to press the plus or minus icon. So currently I'm going to zoom in. Right now you can see there is no particular icon here, which means there is no keyframe. And if I'm going to adjust the value from 24 to 0 and press enter, now you can see the image has scaled down, plus there is a keyframe added to this particular area. And if I just go and press the space bar to see the animation, so something like this will appear, right? So this is how you can add animation to your particular layer. Now the space or the gap in between the layers is very much important. What kind of layer we are working with, what kind of animation we want to have in that particular layer, what is the speed or what is the duration, what is the impact of that particular animation. It all can be controlled using the keyframes and the values and the gap in between the keyframes. Now currently you can see there is a gap of 1 second from this value to this value, and the animation is quite slow. And in order to increase the speed, right, all I have to do is I can move this particular keyframe. I have to select it, and after that I have to move it to the left, right? So the gap, if there will be more gap in between the keyframes, the speed will be slow compared to the gap in between both the keyframes is quite less, then the speed will be very fast. This is how your basic animation works. Like if I'm going to decrease the speed, I'm going to decrease the gap. Now you can see the gap has been decreased. So now let's see that what impact it has put in the animation. So now you can see it is quite fast compared to what we had. And if I go again decrease the gap, so let's see what kind of animation we have, right? So now I want to have some bounce kind of effect in this particular image. So what I can do is I can simply increase the value here. Currently it is 24, that is the final value. So let's suppose I'm going to keep it as 30. Then I will move 2 frames forward or 3 frames forward, 1 2 3, by pressing the control plus right arrow key to move to the right side, or control plus left arrow key to move to the left side, or we can press the page up or page down to move 1 frame forward or backward. Now currently I'm going to add a value of 18. Oh sorry, it's 180. I will again rewrite the value to 18. Again move 3 frames forward, 1 2 3. Earlier the value which we have filled here, it was 30, and here the value was 18. So now I'm going to change the value to 27. Again I'm going to move 3 frames forward, 1 2 3. So we are going to create a jiggle or bouncy effect, and to create that, right, every time it has to stretch up and stretch down until it comes to its original state, right? That's why we are adding one value higher and we are adding one value lower than the original position of that particular shape. So currently it is 27. Now the value which we have selected earlier, it was 18. So now I'm going to change it to 21. Move 3 frames forward, 1 2 3, and now I'm going to settle it to 24 because I don't want that kind of jiggly effect here, right? So now let's see what's the impact on the animation. Right now you can see it is quite playful compared to what we had before, right? Now where has my image gone? Where was the final position of that particular animation? Where are the keyframes gone, right? So now you can see, if you want your keyframes back for your particular property, there is one option that you have to recall that particular property. That is, we have assigned the keys to one specific property that was the scale of this image. You can press S and you can see the keyframes. You can again press S to hide the property also. You have to press the same shortcut key for the property to reveal it or to hide it. Like if I want to hide it, I will again press S. So now what if I want to see that how many properties are there, how many keyframes has been added to different kind of properties, you can again press the U also, right? If you are very much not sure that okay, what kind of keyframes has been added, what kind of properties have been adjusted, so all you can do is you can simply select the layer and press U. So it will show you the keyframes of each and every property. Currently we have added the keyframes on a one specific property, that is your scale. But let's suppose that we have added properties to position, rotation, opacity, or the transparency. In that particular case, we can press the U if we are very much not sure that in which particular property the keyframes have been added. So you can press U and see all the keyframes of the specific property. So if I press U, you can see that we are getting the properties of each and every keyframe, right? So now if I go and press here, right? So now at this particular point, I'm going to add some animation to my text also, like that is the break and through. So let's suppose this has to be the final position of break and through. So I'm going to select both the layers, and after that I'm going to press P because I'm going to adjust the position of this particular layer. So at this particular point, I want the final position should be like this. So I'm going to add a keyframe to the position here. After that, I will go few frames backward, and now I will move the layers outside the artboard. So now let's see what kind of animation we have created, right? So this is how you can add basic animation to your poster, and along with that we can add certain properties also. For example, I have this particular shape, right? Now I want it to glow in certain way, right? This is the layer. Now I want that there should be a glow effect. So what we have to do is we have to simply select this particular layer, and after that we have to choose the glow option here. So there are two types of glow which is available in this particular software. That is your stylize category, and we have the glow option. Now this is the preset of this particular software only, but you can add some plugins also, like we have the deep glow which will enhance the glow of your particular layer, right? So if I choose the glow option here and drag and drop it to the layer which I want there should be glow, right? So I'm going to drag and drop it here, and after that you can see there is a glow effect. So you can always change the value, like the exposure value, currently it is 0, right? I'm going to play with some basic. Let's add a keyframe here. Currently the value is 0, so I want to add a flicker to it. So all we can do is add a keyframe to this, and after that move few frames forward. Like I can take a gap of 6 frames, 8 frames, whatever I feel like. For this I will take a gap of 8 seconds. I think that will be more than enough. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, right? After 8, let's increase the value. It's 0.38, 0.3, and whatever value you feel like. And all we can do is we can simply copy paste this value and keep on adding till there is a flicker effect. Right. So now let's see what kind of animation we have created here. So now you can see there is a flicker animation going behind this particular image, and we have a shape, we have some jiggle effect, and for the text also we have added the position. So this is how you can add some basic animation to your poster or to your design, to your shape, right? We have many more effects here in this particular panel. That is, you can add a blur also. For example, if I go and choose the blur option here, we have blur and sharpen option here, and under this we have the Gaussian blur. So let's suppose that I'm going to add some Gaussian blur here and to my image also, or I can add the blur option to my text also. For example, I'm going to choose the right. After that, I'm going to increase the blur value. Currently it is 0, so let's keep it to 0 only. Move few frames forward and increase the blur value like this. Again, press U to see all the keyframes, right? So again, you can see the value here. So I'm going to copy the first keyframe and I'm going to add in front of this particular keyframe, right? And I can simply copy paste it here. Right. So this is how we can create the blur effect. And again, what I can do is I can simply select or copy this particular effect and paste it on the layer below, right? So now it is going to have the same keyframes, and now let's see what kind of animation we have created. So this is how you can add some basic animation to your particular design. There are n number of effects which we can go through. There is a blur, there is distortion, right? I hope so. The concept of keyframes, the concept of adding animation to your static layer is very much clear to you. You can create some posters of your own in Adobe After Effects or in Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, and then you can start animating those posters here in Adobe After Effects. For this session, that was all from my side. You can do a practice of a poster design and animate it such that it is quite dynamic, it is having some smooth movements in it, and I will see you in the next session with some more topics